The air hung heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. The forest floor was a tapestry of nature's cycle, where life and decay intertwined seamlessly, each step squelched underfoot, a reminder of the rain that had recently passed, leaving the ground sodden and the leaves glistening with moisture. The atmosphere was almost tangible, a living entity that wrapped around you, pulling you deeper into its embrace. A low mist clung to the ground, swirling around the entrance of the maze. It moved like a living creature, tendrils of fog curling and uncurling as if beckoning you to step forward. The entrance loomed ahead, shrouded in mystery and foreboding. It was as if the maze itself was alive, breathing out the mist that now enveloped it. The air grew colder as you approached, the temperature dropping with each step, sending shivers down your spine. The hedges, overgrown and gnarled, seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers, each branch twisted and turned in unnatural ways, creating a labyrinth of shadows and shapes that played tricks on the mind. The foliage was dense, almost impenetrable, and the path ahead was barely visible. It was as if the maze was trying to keep its secrets hidden, to prevent anyone from uncovering what lay within. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a night bird. This was no ordinary maze. It was a place steeped in legend and mystery, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred. The entrance stood like a gateway to another world, a world where darkness reigned and fear was a constant companion. The very air seemed to hum with an unseen energy, a warning to those who dared to enter. It was a place that called to the brave and the foolish alike, promising adventure and danger in equal measure. This was a place of darkness, where fear was a living, breathing thing. The shadows seemed to move of their own accord, creating shapes and figures that danced just out of sight. The path twisted and turned, leading deeper into the heart of the maze, where the light of day could not penetrate. It was a place where the imagination ran wild, where every sound was amplified, and every shadow held a hidden threat. It was a place that tested the limits of courage and sanity. For years, whispers spread about the maze, tales whispered around flickering campfires, stories of those who had entered and never returned, of strange lights and sounds that emanated from within. The maze had become a legend, a place of fear and fascination. People spoke of it in hushed tones, their voices tinged with both awe and dread. It was a place that captured the imagination, a place where the line between myth and reality was blurred. They spoke of people lost, vanishing without a trace. Missing person posters and old newspaper clippings told the stories of those who had dared to enter and were never seen again. The maze had claimed many, its twisting paths and dark corners hiding secrets that would never be uncovered. It was a place that inspired both fear and curiosity, a place that called to those who sought adventure and mystery. They spoke of laughter echoing through the hedges, chilling the blood. The sound would come from nowhere, a haunting, disembodied laughter that seemed to follow you through the maze. It was a sound that sent shivers down the spine, a reminder that you were not alone. The laughter was a constant companion, a reminder of the maze's dark history and the souls it had claimed. It was a place where the past and present collided, where the echoes of those who had come before could still be heard. Few dared to venture within its twisting paths, and even fewer escaped to tell the tale. Those who did return were forever changed, their eyes haunted by what they had seen. The maze was a place that tested the limits of human endurance, a place where fear was a constant companion. It was a place that called to the brave and the foolish alike, promising adventure and danger in equal measure. The maze awaited, its secrets hidden within its dark, twisting paths, ready to challenge those who dared to enter. Jenna, a thrill-seeker with a thirst for the unknown, scoffed at the local legends. She had always been the type to seek out the extraordinary, the kind of person who would rather explore the depths of a haunted forest than spend a quiet evening at home. The stories of the haunted maze were just that to her, stories, tales spun by the locals to keep children from wandering too far. She had heard them all before, the whispers of ghosts and spirits that supposedly roamed the maze after dark. But Jenna was not one to be easily frightened. She was determined to prove that the legends were nothing more than figments of overactive imaginations. Armed with a flashlight and a skeptical smirk, she stepped into the maze. The entrance loomed before her, a dark, gaping mouth that seemed to swallow the light. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The maze was a labyrinth of tall hedges, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked out the sky. As she ventured deeper, the light from her flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a stark contrast to the crisp, clean air outside. The setting sun cast long, eerie shadows that danced around her feet. The maze seemed to come alive in the twilight, the shadows shifting and changing with every step she took. It was as if the maze itself was watching her, waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets. Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed, but every time she turned around, there was nothing there. Just the silent, looming hedges and the ever-present shadows. The air grew colder, the silence broken only by the crunch of gravel beneath her boots. Each step echoed in the stillness, a reminder of how alone she was in the maze. The path twisted and turned, leading her deeper into the heart of the labyrinth. The further she went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The cold seemed to seep into her bones, chilling her to the core. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to ward off the growing sense of unease. She laughed, her voice echoing strangely in the stillness. A haunted maze? Right. The sound of her laughter was meant to dispel the fear, to remind herself that there was nothing to be afraid of. But the echo that bounced back to her sounded hollow, almost mocking. It was as if the maze was laughing with her, or perhaps at her. She shook her head, trying to shake off the feeling of unease. She was being ridiculous. There was no such thing as ghosts. But even as she spoke, a shiver ran down her spine. The temperature seemed to drop even further, and she could see her breath misting in the air. She tightened her grip on the flashlight, the beam of light her only comfort in the encroaching darkness. The maze seemed to close in around her, the walls of hedges growing taller and more menacing. She could feel the weight of the legends pressing down on her, the stories of lost souls and restless spirits that haunted the maze. There was something unsettling about the place, a palpable sense of dread that seeped into her bones. It was as if the maze was alive, a living entity that fed on fear. Jenna could feel its presence all around her, a dark, malevolent force that watched her every move. She quickened her pace, her heart racing as she tried to find her way out. But the maze seemed to stretch on forever, each turn leading her deeper into its twisted depths. The sense of dread grew stronger with every step, a constant reminder that she was not alone in the darkness. The further Jenna ventured into the maze, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The hedges seemed to press closer, their thorny branches reaching out like grasping claws. The path twisted and turned, leading her in circles. She checked her watch. An hour had passed, yet she felt like she hadn't moved at all. A sudden rustle in the hedges made her jump. She spun around, shining her flashlight into the darkness. Nothing. Just the wind, she muttered, her voice trembling slightly. But deep inside, a seed of doubt began to grow. The sun had vanished completely now, leaving Jenna in near total darkness. The beam of her flashlight danced nervously across the path ahead, revealing only fleeting glimpses of tangled branches and fallen leaves. She felt a cold, clammy hand grip her heart as she realized she was hopelessly lost. Then, she saw them. Faces. Twisted, grotesque faces peering at her from the shadows of the hedges. They were there one moment, gone the next, as if they were figments of her imagination. But the sheer terror they evoked was all too real. Panic welled up inside Jenna. She ran blindly through the maze, her flashlight bouncing erratically, the faces in the leaves multiplying with every turn. The laughter she had scoffed at earlier now echoed in her ears, a chorus of chilling, disembodied voices. She stumbled and fell, scraping her hands on the rough ground. Tears streamed down her face as she realized the horrifying truth. This maze was no game, it was a living nightmare, and she was trapped within its grasp. The laughter grew louder, closer. Jenna scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel their presence now, cold and ethereal, surrounding her. The faces in the leaves morphed into the ghostly figures of children, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. They reached out to her with spindly fingers, their touch sending icy shivers down her spine. Their laughter, once playful, now held an undercurrent of malice, a symphony of terror that threatened to consume her sanity. Driven by sheer terror, Jenna stumbled upon a clearing in the heart of the maze. A single withered oak stood in the center, its branches reaching towards the sky like skeletal arms. Beneath the oak, a shadowy figure sat hunched, its back to Jenna. The laughter of the children faded as Jenna approached the figure. She could feel its power, ancient and malevolent, radiating outwards like a physical force. This was the source of the maze's evil, the puppet master behind her torment. With a surge of desperate courage, Jenna raised her voice. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The figure slowly turned its head, and Jenna gasped. Its face was a mask of decay, its eyes burning with an unholy fire. It opened its mouth, and a voice like the grinding of stone echoed through the clearing. "You have wandered too far," it rasped. "Now you shall stay. Forever." The figure lunged at Jenna, its skeletal fingers reaching for her throat. She could feel the icy grip of fear tightening around her heart, each breath becoming more labored as the darkness closed in. The air was thick with a sense of impending doom, and Jenna's mind raced, searching for any possible escape from this nightmarish scenario. She screamed and threw her hands up to protect herself, her voice echoing through the labyrinthine corridors of the maze. The sound of her own terror seemed to amplify the horror, bouncing off the walls and reverberating back to her. Her hands, trembling and desperate, formed a fragile barrier against the relentless advance of the skeletal figure. A blinding white light erupted, engulfing everything in its path. The intensity of the light was overwhelming, searing through the darkness and obliterating the shadowy figure in an instant. Jenna felt a surge of warmth and energy, as if the light was not just a physical phenomenon but a force of pure, unadulterated hope. When the light faded, Jenna found herself lying on the edge of the maze, blinking in the early morning sun. The transition from the oppressive darkness to the gentle light of dawn was jarring, and she took a moment to orient herself. The grass beneath her was cool and damp with dew, a stark contrast to the suffocating atmosphere of the maze. Had it all been a dream, a hallucination? Jenna's mind was a whirlwind of confusion and doubt. She replayed the events in her head, trying to make sense of the surreal experience. The vividness of the terror she had felt was undeniable, yet here she was, in the serene embrace of nature as if nothing had happened. She looked back at the maze, its entrance shrouded in mist, the hedges swaying gently in the breeze. The sight was almost peaceful, belying the horrors that lurked within. The mist seemed to hold secrets, whispering to her in a language she couldn't understand, beckoning her to return and face whatever lay hidden in its depths. But the terror lingered, a cold knot in her stomach. The memory of the skeletal figure and the suffocating darkness was etched into her mind, a haunting reminder of the ordeal she had just endured. Her body still trembled with residual fear, and she clutched her stomach, trying to steady herself. She knew deep down that some nightmares, once experienced, can never be truly escaped. They leave an indelible mark on the soul, a scar that time cannot heal. As she gazed into the distance, Jenna realized that the maze was not just a physical place, but a manifestation of her deepest fears. And though she had escaped its clutches for now, the shadow of its presence would forever loom over her, a constant reminder of the darkness that resides within us all.